How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today is my good friend Rob from West Coast Canna. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good, James. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you too, man. We grew up together. We've known each other for a long time. Shared genetics.
Yeah.
Anyone want to hear where I got the cookies cut from? You're looking at the guy right here. 2010-ish.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, give or take a little bit. And we got it. I got it from you, but you had got it from our good friend Paulie.
Yeah,
who he got it from a store in Berkeley off of 4th. It wasn't Berkeley Indoor Garden. It was the one on the side streets.
Right.
From a cat that was working there. And the cookies cut was a big deal back then.
Sure. Not many other genetics. Actually, it was probably the first genetic you could call an exotic in the whole industry, and super sought after. I mean, when we dropped the flower at the dispensary at my club, RIP to the club, we had a line down the street. No one in San Jose had it yet, so it was like super cool for us to have something unique, even though our dispensary looked like a little trap shop.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass to grow.
It sure was. Not a lot of yield. No, not very big colas. Prone to some issues. Kind of grew a little sideways, but.
Well, in the cut that we had, it grew a lot like OG in the sense that the node spacing was really bad.
Yep.
It didn't produce a ton of leaves, but the node spacing was bad, and you'd get buds that were growing, 4 inches apart.
Yep.
And it would fall over. It was like spaghetti. You had to trellis it up.
Everything.
If you didn't, it would just. I bet it would grow along the ground.
It would if you let it. Yeah, if you would. We double trellis everything. Not much to defoliate because there just wasn't much there. Stay on top of some PM depending on your environment. But
this wasn't the forum cut, we had it as Girl Scout cookies. The first thing that we had, there was one Girl Scout cookies in the beginning, and that was the one that we had that I had seen from other people as well. And then, I think some people say, there's a lot of confusion around stuff, but there's the forum cut, and forum cut was different than the cut that we had, I believe.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there was a Thin Mints cut that everyone kind of ran with.
And the Thin Mints was the spear.
Sure. Yeah.
So they grew up like spears, and you grew like longer buds. And then the forum was nice, big, chunky buds.
And this was kind of neither of those.
And I feel like it was similar. And, I who knows? I wasn't there in the circle of the guys that made the cookies. There's a lot of mystery behind the origins
I
of that.
spoke to a couple of those guys, and they were, they're always very eager to figure out how'd you get your hands on that? I'm like, a gentleman never tells, right?
Right. Yeah. So, 14 years later,
we're still rocking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still like cookies. I still think it has its place. A lot of people don't even understand how impactful Girl Scout cookies was. I feel like a lot of the stuff that has bread in it, you get that bread from your wedding cake, it came from the cookies.
Sure.
Sort of, that doughy kind of bready character. I like that.
Yeah. Well, cookies, like I said, was the first one you could really call an exotic of the available genetics that were around. And Cookie Fam and those guys, they did a fantastic job. And all the dessert strains that came after it, once gelato hit, and then boom, it's been nonstop since there. It kind of flipped the whole industry on its head as far as
all the herms in the industry we can thank. But yeah, I mean, I think that was the beginning of a new phase, because before that there was a lot of diversity too, and we had our Kushes, we had the OGs, we had the sours, we had there was the varieties of like the Bubba, the Hindu. We saw those, the Master Kush. I love that.
Sure.
And then but it wasn't what modern day exotics are. The purple candy gas or the purple gas as cookies was, because cookies had like a nice cherry nose on it.
Yeah.
It was bready and a little bit creamy and gassy, and it smoked, and it could smoke down to the roach.
Totally. Yeah. One thing I would say that's kind of a double-edged sword with all the desserts coming in and all that is, before Girl Scout cookies in general, we had sativas and we had indicas.
Yeah.
And we had some hybrids, but indicas and sativas, right? Nowadays, how hard is it to find a sativa out there? God, it's crazy.
They're out there, but
everything's a hybrid nowadays. Because everyone wanted to have the prettiest weed and throw as many names they can in there.
Leans more towards the middle.
Totally. Yeah, we've
in
lost
politics. We go far left, far right, and with cannabis, it's been okay. Everything's a hybrid.
The middle. Yeah.
And there are some super amazing indicas that you can find. Sometimes there are some super amazing sativas. We can go like these amazing Kushes on that far end, and Then we get these, Durban poison. I still see
once in a while,
red Congolese and Durbans and some Colombian stuff. And we see stuff that has hints of it in there, but you don't see the landrace stuff very often. And
no.
I some of the companies that I was super excited that were growing it, they've gone out of business. But like Redbeard's got some amazing sativas.
Sure. Oh, I'll have to look into them because I'm hunting for some good sativas.
Yeah,
You know what I ran recently again? I hadn't ran in ever.
Yeah.
Wild guess.
Wild guess. Trainwreck.
Close. Blue Dream.
So Blue Dream is on the comeback. Josh Freeman, my good friend Josh Freeman.
Yeah.
He's growing Blue Dream again as well. So like. Blue Dream is making a comeback. I'd rather say OG Kush is making a comeback because it is, but I prefer that. And there's nothing wrong with Blue Dream. It has the most amazing structure. Sure. It's probably the single most demanded, genetic all over. It's probably because Justin Bieber talked about it. But
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so let's dive back into your history, man. So you have a long history with the plant. When did you get started smoking?
Oh man, wow. All the way back to that was, I guess 1991, right? I think that's for me the first time I sat down.
That was my year too.
Yeah, well, I sat down at the table in my friend's house and had the purple graphics bongs. Remember the old graphics?
Oh yeah, plastic graphics.
Plastic graphics, man.
Made on
that thing.
The shop on Telegraph.
Yeah, and I just remember like taking this first big milky rip and coughing my ass off, and everyone's laughing. I just assumed that's how you're supposed to do it, and I just kind of put my head down on the table and. I can still see it to this day, like checkerboard black and white and like this blue and purple sky just flickering. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is great. Are we allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Fuck yeah, that's what I like to hear. Yeah. But yeah, I remember just sitting at that table and then they're like, all right, Rob, you need to go lay down on the couch for a while. And I'm like, man, that was fucking fantastic. And and then I was hooked from there. But as far as cultivation goes, that started back in about 2003, 2004 for me.
Yeah.
Anything past like a closet grow, like, I did that probably back in 99, but like in terms of actually setting up a real grow and like playing the game of getting the U-Haul freaking truck and having to like take all these side streets. You're worried they're watching you with the helicopters, and not to sound like a paranoid, but they really did do that. And just being super underground and like, having to hide every inch of everything about it. And, but we did it. And then by 2009, I bought my dispensary.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just growing up into that point until I'm like, I think I want a dispensary. Worst decision of my life. Yeah. But, also the best because it opened up the doors to everything we've been, that I've been doing now. So it's, it's been a good run. Lots of ups and downs, the ups are really fun. The downs are pretty tragic, but that's just the nature of the business. We're in an industry that is still gray area, and some of us like ourselves have been in it since it was totally dark. And you just keep running, hope for the best.
Roll with the punches.
We're still here, so that's
fall down 7, get up 8.
That's the plan.
Or 9, or 10, or 11. It is what it is. You fall down, you get back up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the past couple of years, 2.5 years, I hope I'm exaggerating, but I feel like 90% of the industry is gone. Like I go to the shows, I'm just not seeing the brands I used to see back in the day.
It's changed. Everything's changed.
Yeah.
Everything's changed. Yeah, just not even in cannabis, but everything. Things have changed since COVID. You can't even barely go out in San Francisco and find a meal late at night.
Unless you're homeless, they give everything away for free.
Yeah. But good food. You used to be able to get food in the cities, and I feel like you can still find some food, but it's not like it used to be, where you could go out at midnight and there's restaurants open. A lot of them.
Sure. Yeah, the world's changing, and we just got to roll with the punches, like you said. And I'm happy to still be here fighting the fight with cannabis. It's my passion. I've got a couple, I guess, real careers to fall back on, and I'm just dying. I'm just dreading the day that might ever come. So I'm pushing as hard as I can to keep this dream alive, because I don't want to go back to selling houses.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, you've done so much in the industry. So let's talk about how you got your start in the industry.
I guess that would be the dispensary, right? Because before that, I was just cultivating, living a good life, man. I was over in Scotts Valley because back then, Santa Cruz County allowed 99 plants. And so I rented this cool house in Scotts Valley, and it was like me and my 3 dogs in this big old house, and had a 20 lighter underneath and downstairs. And so, my day to day is get up, go for a jog on the beach, have some breakfast, and pull out weed maps and be like, all right, well, where are we stopping by today? And grab a few packs and back then, 4,000 a pound for Blue Dream, 3,800 with no questions asked. Right. And so, you get 40 pounds out of a grow, and it was good times. I'm like, you know what? This is so much fun. I should buy a dispensary. That was an experience. So anyway, I guess what led me to the dispensary was I used to train jiu-jitsu with this guy. He was a programmer for a big Fortune 500 company, and he had taken some of his IPO money and said, you know what, I want to try cannabis out. But turns out he wasn't a cannabis guy, and so he didn't do too well. They dumped a bunch of money into starting the dispensary, and his wife wasn't big on customer service, and so they had bad product and bad reviews. And long story short, he said, well, technically, I was actually about to open a bar. I'd put money aside for the build out, negotiated a lease, found a liquor license, the whole thing. And literally about a week before I pulled the trigger on that, he comes like, hey, Rob, and I'd been venting to him for a year or whatever. He's like, I'm just over this. I think you'd be a better fit for what we're trying to do over here. Do you want to buy it? And I said, fuck it, let's do it. And so I took it over, and that's when I started learning what the industry was really about, dealing with the city council, the city of San Jose, and them trying to put, trying to ban dispensaries altogether. We filed referendums. I started taking a real major role in the fight against the city council, the city of San Jose as a whole, trying to ban all the dispensaries. We won the first one. We filed a referendum, went out and raised a bunch of signatures to overthrow the ballot. And
they went into a moratorium, right? Like after a couple,
they wanted to do a moratorium, but they also wanted to do a flat out ban.
Right.
Right. And so the first time we beat them. And so the second time they went about it with a land use thing, right? They said, okay, so a dispensary can't be within 1,000 feet of a school, a park, a daycare, a rehab, a church, or like anything from a city planning standpoint. They put all these things in places for accessibility for the people, right? And they do it, they call it as the crow flies. So even if there's a freeway and all these natural barriers in between where you are in that dispensary, it's a straight line on a map, not how far away it is to actually physically get there. And so they just found this kind of loophole way of going about it. And then it restricted the available land that a dispensary could be on to what worked out to be about 1% of the city, right? And of course, it's in the worst places, because why wouldn't there be, churches and daycares and all these things unless you're in some crappy industrial or high crime area? So everyone was crowded. And then there was also rules about how close the dispensaries could be to each other. And then you also had to kind of have a build out that was the equivalent of like Fort Knox, right? If your facility, you had to have the land, you had to have the building, you had to have this crazy build out before you could even get the permit, right? So there's companies spending millions of dollars to make all this happen and then didn't get the permit, right? It was just city of San Jose was really difficult to deal with. And so this is, when I saw this happening, I'm like, all right, this is my time to kind of check out. So I sold the dispensary in 2012 and jumped into the brand side of stuff. I said, okay, well, when it comes to being a retail dispensary, you have to deal with all the headaches of the city. When you're a cultivation, you deal with all the headaches of a grow. Brands are kind of insulated from all of that, right? The more saturated the market gets with flower, the cheaper it gets, the better it is for the brand to acquire flower, right? It just seemed like a smarter bet. So I dived in, and then I became a partner in California Finest. We were America's first marijuana cigarette company in terms of a cigarette pack. Won a bunch of High Times awards and HempCon cups and Jack Herrera cups and all these things. And kind of went across the whole country pushing our cigarette pack. And that was a lot of fun. That was me. That was Baby Bash. That was Burner for a short time. Scott, the guy that kind of founded the company. And so we ran with that for years. And that was a really good thing. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. And, California Finance kind of chilling there, still alive, but not really doing anything at the time. I launched West Coast Canna in 2018. We launched West Coast Canna as West Coast Cannagar, and we made a 3.5 gram cigar, right? And they're great. I love the Cannagars, but a 3.5 gram cigar is almost kind of a novelty product. So there's been a lot of refining over the years, and we came up with what our flagship product is, our Cannarillo, our West Coast Cannarillo, which is a diamond infused hemp cone with exotic flower and whatnot. And it's it's a size that's more palatable. You know, people will blow through these and enjoy it and not have to waste half of it, right? You put out
How big are they?
1.1 and 1.2 grams. A quarter of that, or 0.3 of that is diamonds, and the rest is exotic flower. We'll smoke one here in a little bit.
Nice. And these are THCA diamonds?
Now we're getting to that. So the THCA diamonds we've been using for years now.
Yeah.
Long before the THCA craze that we're seeing now. This
and it's huge. THCA is huge.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And so we'll just jump to that part of the conversation, because THCA, let me back it up. For us personally, you know, I saw there's a lot happening federally, right, with cannabis. There's talk of rescheduling. Right. There's talk of either a flat out legalization, not going to happen.
Deschedule,
not going to happen. But a rescheduling, I think, is going to happen. And what they're talking about is going from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. But, you know, Schedule 1's PCP and Schedule 3 is aspirin. Right. So that just means they get to regulate the hell out of everything. Everything has to be FDA labs, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's fine. But the second that happens, and it's no longer the threat of a felony, and then banking opens up, we're no longer competing with each other. We're competing with big pharma and, you know, Pfizer. We're competing with Anheuser-Busch. We're competing with everybody, Meta, anyone, Google, anyone that's got money that wants to make more money is going to see the opportunity that is in this industry. And then we're all getting blown away if we don't have something to offer.
Right.
It's a sad truth. And so, you know, 5 years ago, I said, hey, I'm 40 years old. I could work this business until the day I die and be totally happy. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of did everything for the brand as if we're never selling out and we're going to just run this forever. But then, you know, recently, this past year or so, I'm like, man, if they're really going to reschedule this and do the Schedule 3 thing, we're all in big trouble. So how do I get West Coast Canna everywhere so that we own enough shelf space, enough real estate nationwide that when this happens, you know, they come and approach us and they try to buy us rather than strangle us to death. And then, you know, keep us on board to be able to work it, because they're not cannabis people. So it creates the opportunity for us to have that career in the industry forever and ever, instead of having to, you know, go back to doing something else. So then THCA, the THCA craze kind of hits. And, you know, THCA is hemp, right? Until it's decarboxylated, it's hemp.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Right. So that means that we're just selling hemp and we can sell it everywhere. And it's a craze.
Under federal regulation, THCA is hemp. So is CBN.
Correct.
So is
Delta 8, CBD,
THCV,
THCP, all of them. 2018 Farm Bill states that, you know, every other cannabinoid can be worked with aside from Delta 9. But THCA is awesome. Like, so 2018 Farm Bill says that if it's not Delta 9, then you're good to go. Essentially, that's kind of obviously the short version of it. But every cannabinoid has had a craze attached to it, right? Like CBD came out and boom, everyone's on CBD, and Delta 8 came out. Oh, you know, Delta 10, all these cannabinoids come out, and because they're not really effective in so many ways as that people are looking for, aka getting high, it kind of fizzles out, and there's that little wave, you know, crashes.
But they all have their place. They just kind of settle in. There's a big spike.
Yeah.
CBD. I mean, CBD is still around. CBD is amazing. You have a CBD brand.
Company.
Yeah.
It's super useful, right? It's super useful for a lot of things. I'm not allowed to make any medical claims, and we don't do that. But there's a lot of things you could do some research on to find out what CBD is good for. And I take it to this day, every single day. I give it to my dogs. Every single day, I give it to my family members. It has a use. But the masses that are out spending money every single day, unfortunately, are buying CBD.
Right.
And then Delta 8 has a little wave and it spikes and it finds its place.
There was Delta 10 for a hot second. Then people realize, wait a second.
That's just 9. Yeah, that's just 9.
But there's like THCO and THCP and all these other.
THCP is very interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You add 5% of some THCP distillate and you've supercharged it to supercharge your regular distillate to an uncomfortable state. I mean, it gets really strong. And you're like, wait a minute, how? So THCP is an interesting one. But THCA, all those, to back up a little bit, I'm sorry. All those cannabinoids had their heyday, right? And they kind of like slowed down and found their place, as you said. And there is a place for all of them. CBD especially. I've watched some amazing things.
CBG,
CBN. My buddy makes a product called a Night in his pre-rolls and puts the CBN in there, and everyone loves them. They're fantastic. They sleep so hard. They sleep hella hard. No sleeping pills, no NyQuil, no Ambien or any of that crap. You hit a night, you're good. So they all have their place, but because they don't get you high, the wave kind of crashes a little bit. Well, the one cannabinoid that has legs to it, in my opinion, is THCA.
Right.
Because, in its raw form, it is hemp. You take, am I telling too much on here? Am I
no,
giving up too much information to get us all in trouble later?
No, but I think we can be straight with the THCA. Yeah. I think that's it's important because it's the truth. First of all.
Right.
But THCA definitely has its value, and I was in Texas recently. So you were in Texas. You visited my parents actually not so long ago. Yep. But THCA, I go into the CBD shops and they've got THCA under the counter. It's like a dispensary, but you're going in there and you're looking at this stuff, and I look at it and the guy shows me the flower. I'm like, it looks like regular flower. He's like, no, that's THCA flower. It's considered hemp. And I'm like, I can't believe
that's THCA.
It smells amazing.
Doesn't it?
So it looks amazing, smells amazing, and the taste was actually surprisingly not that bad. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but
it still has that hemp flavor to it a little bit.
This one wasn't hemp flavored. It just wasn't super terpy. I feel like it could have been grown a little bit better. A lot of the THCA, they're pulling early, but technically most CBD that we're growing, if you harvest it past a certain point, it'll test hot anyway. Sure. Right. So
that's the trick of keeping the D9.
That's the trick. You got to harvest early, even with CBD, even pharmaceutical, unless it has 0 T, which there's a couple companies that have germplasm that has 0 THC, where the pathway is blocked from CBG, so it doesn't convert into THC. Other than that, that stuff will all pretty much get hot.
Yeah. And
almost all of it. Yeah.
And at the same time that D9 is developing late in the term is also a lot of that terpene production, right? All that flavor we're getting. So you pull it a little early and you get more of an earthy taste and then what the genetic would normally create.
Right.
But yeah. So THCA falls into my lap and I'm like, and this is literally like 2 weeks after I'm like, oh no, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive if Pfizer comes in and has a $500 million marketing budget just to destroy everybody in his path? They're either going to buy them or they're just going to choke them out. It's like alcohol at the end of prohibition.
Yeah.
Right. So, as I'm like trying to figure out, making these crazy plans, building this insane business plan, kind of our next few years of life, THCA hits. And I'm like, this is it, because this isn't a Delta 8 or a CBG or a CBD that will have a peak and then a valley. This one will sustain because of states like Texas and Florida that don't have legal cannabis the way we do here. And these are huge, huge markets. And so as people getting access to the medicine without having to deal with all the headaches of being in Texas and whatnot.
Delivered to their doorstep.
To their doorstep, legally, right?
Legally, so delivered to their doorstep, yeah.
We can pack a box and get on the airplane. As long as you got your documentation, you're good. Drop it in the mail, all these things. These is legal. So how do you get your brand in 50 states in a short amount of time? I personally think it's THCA. So this has kind of been a godsend for us because it's given us an opportunity to scale where we otherwise would have had to give up a lot to get there.
Wow. So how many different flavors do you guys have?
Right now, we only have packaging for one, lemon cherry gelato, because that's what's hot. But we have about 15 different THCA strains of exotics, and there's about another dozen of some indoor, and then down to the greenhouse stuff. There's a lot, and every farm that I've been dealing with, they're constantly testing new genetics to see which ones perform better and, and how they test and et cetera, et cetera. But all the stuff that we've got, it's anywhere from like 0.1 to 0.2.5. And this stuff's beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks really great. And then we make, our Canarillos and whatnot. And we're already using the THCA diamonds in there. And so now the only thing that changes is we use THCA flower.
Right.
And you got this 50% THCA testing product.
Pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Who would have thought? You told me 10 years ago, I'd say bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah. And,
times have changed.
Yeah. And I called my attorney right when this kind of hit, and I'm like, Dom, I need you to look into something for me. Looking at THCA. And at first he's like, no, don't do it. You're risking everything. Be careful. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm calling you. But have you actually read the farm bill? Can you read into the farm bill? And he calls me like 4 days later, and he's like, dude, I've been like diving into this thing, and I'm researching each case, because the Farm Bill is just a summary of a bunch of different cases. And so he's going through every single case. And at the end of 3 days of research, he lands back at 0.3 of Delta 9. You know, the differentiation of the government's view of what constitutes cannabis and what constitutes hemp.
Mm-hmm.
And it boils down to 0.3 of Delta 9. And like he went down the rabbit hole deep. And so according to him, who I put a lot of trust in and pay him a lot for, he says we're good until we're not, and they changed the verbiage of the Farm Bill, which, I think we got about a year before that happens.
No, they just passed the latest Farm Bill, 4 years. Literally, I believe 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, they actually, so I'm not sure when this airs, but sure. Based on the timeline. But yeah, I mean, they just signed into law the new Farm Bill. And so we should be good for another 4 years.
Excellent, because I was told that they pushed it out one more year, and that they're still working on the language. I'm behind the times. I guess I've been have my head down, so buried so deep in this that I might have missed that. But what I was under the impression of is we were supposed to vote on it last year in 22. Right. It's every 4 years, right? And then it got pushed out 6 months, and then at the most recent kind of come to Jesus meeting, they said we're still not ready. So we're going to push out 6 more months. It's not just how
one
it
of us is
cannabis.
I
hope it's me.
Yeah, I hope it's you too.
I hope it's me. I'm praying it's me, because I'll take 4 years over 2. Because I thought, maybe we got about 2 more years, and then hope the language comes in our favor, and that kind of dictates. And then by then, rescheduling might already occur. And that's why I don't even know why they're worried about it, because if we're this close to where we are, because they're saying 2 to 3 years on this rescheduling idea. If we're that close, why do you guys give a shit?
Right.
Why do you care? Yeah. It's you're throwing money at this war on drugs nonsense for no reason. A lot of other problems you guys can devote some energy to.
Like the homeless.
And fentanyl. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think both are contributing to, it's tough with both of those things. Fentanyl is a really fucked up thing.
Yeah.
And it's affecting a lot of people everywhere.
Yeah.
Homelessness is also affecting a lot of people everywhere. You look in San Francisco, it's rough, and all, I don't know all major cities, but I know the major cities I've been to lately, it's been tough. Cool. Even like Los Angeles, you go up and down the West Coast from Seattle all the way down to San Diego, and there's a homeless problem.
And funny enough, there's a consistency in those 3 states, and we don't got to talk about that. It's a different conversation. But California in particular has kind of created a magnet because of a lot of the social programs we've adopted. And so for better or worse, depending on how you view things, when you offer free healthcare and free money and free phones and free food and free housing to people, to illegal migrants, to homeless people, and then you have this huge opioid problem, fentanyl problem. People are strung out. I mean, I know what I would do if I was in that scenario. I'm going to San Francisco. I'm going to LA. I spent a lot of time in LA and downtown, where a lot of our packaging and hardware. If I don't have time to wait for China to deliver, I go down there. And Skid Row used to be this big, and now it's got its own zip code. Yeah. It's grown. It's like, it used to be like 1 block, and now it's like blocks and blocks. And like, if you don't have protection with you when you're walking through there.
Soon they're going to assign addresses so you can get mail.
I was going to say, put a little post box next to the park bench. That's me, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's really like that. Like sure. And we've mainstreamed homelessness, and the same thing that, in the same street that someone's paying $1.5 million to be on and paying crazy amounts of taxes, the guy living on his doorstep is getting paid to live on that doorstep. Yeah. It's insane. This isn't sustainable. So anyhow, that's
let's talk about some more fun stuff.
Yeah, as I say, we can.
Yes. Yeah, so tell me about one of the craziest experiences you had on cannabis.
Oh shoot! I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of them. Baby Bash, my business partner and one of my dearest friends, we've done like full on tours where we're doing big concerts. He's performing with Pitbull and a long list of names, big stars, Ice Cube, and all these guys. And at the same time, we're out there promoting our cannabis brand, right? So I walk out on stage, and there's like 100,000 people in the crowd. Everyone's losing their freaking mind. I'm just chucking weed in the crowd out to everybody. Everyone's having a great time. And I get to do that. That's fucking fantastic. But so it's a lot of stuff like that. A lot of stuff like with the trade shows and the concerts and the music festivals, because music and cannabis are so closely tied together, and having a major artist as part of our brand has led us to some really, really cool places. But Some of the craziest stuff, I mean, is for me, aside from that stuff, is, being that I'm an industry person, just like we get invited to go to places that most people don't get to see. I've been in some facilities that, I mean, even today blow my mind. I was just down in Orange County. I met some guys at the MJ BizCon, and we ended up striking up a little a little friendship. And I go down to Orange County to visit their lab, and man, I'll show you some videos in a bit, but this place is amazing. I mean, this is if we get rescheduled and then the FDA, if they create rules and guidelines for how labs have to operate, these guys they already passed. Like they're already doing it that way.
They set the standard from that lab.
Dude, I've been in a lot of labs. I know you have too. And this place is amazing. Wow. Yeah. So amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
But so anyway, I've gotten to see some really cool things. Huge cultivations, huge labs. Man, our spot in Colorado where all of our CBD comes from is 1,500 acres. I mean, we're out just running through fields and fields of green, like in a movie or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one thing. It's been, I've been in this so long, and we've had so many amazing times. Winning High Times Cups. They took us out to Washington D.C. for the Trailblazers Cup for High Times, and we were part of that. And there's just been so many cool things, man. Yeah.
Who was the biggest celebrity you smoked with?
Ooh, gosh. Well, Baby Bash, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let me think about that. Yeah, let me come back to that one. I was in the rotation, but I didn't get to hit it. I was a little bummed about that, actually. Tommy Chong, we did a lot of stuff with Tommy. Obviously, all the rappers, I've smoked with all those guys, but I can't really pin who I think the biggest one would be, without putting them on blast for smoking weed. I don't know if everyone knows what they do. There's a couple of them that are big names, but they may not want me dropping
the Michael
name.
Phelps of the world.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, kind of like that, right?
Although he probably now is like,
now he's all about it, right? Yeah. I should try to see if he wants a sponsorship. Yeah, because Subway dropped him. Yeah. But
gold medal,
totally gold medal Kush, right? We'll just name it. But no, I mean, all these years and more specifically since 2012, when the California financing started, that's when the real fun began. And the industry as a whole was a lot of fun from about 2012 to about, I want to say 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
The High Times Cups, just all the trade shows and all the smokeouts and the sessions and all the stuff that you used to be able to do, the hemp cons and the High Times and the Blazers Cups and all those. That was like where the real industry was. That was the heartbeat. And if you weren't at these events, I mean, Emerald Cup, like we were talking earlier, if you weren't there, you weren't, like, you had no idea what was going on, and you had no idea what
you were missing out.
You were totally missing out. Best thing we got nowadays is like MJ BizCon, which is great.
We got Emerald Cup coming back here in Oakland, I think. Right. But like,
are they gonna let it happen? I know that.
Yeah, it's good. It's happening May 4th and 5th of 2024.
Oh, great!
And but the Emerald Cups back in the day were amazing. The High Times Cups in the U.S. when they first started, but it was like disco. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's not the same.
You can't bring it back.
Chalice, all those I mean, there's been some really good events over the years. Obviously, the ones in Europe that still go on, like Cannabis, which you need to come out of Cannabis this year.
I was supposed to go, remember? Then COVID hit, and I actually had people from my team landed.
Maybe you should come this year.
I think you're right. Actually, that would be the perfect time.
Yeah,
it would be the perfect time. Wheezy is probably one of the biggest names I smoke with. It's like totally open with their consumption.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I didn't get to smoke with Ice Cube. I really wanted to, but that might just be because I'm 45 and he's a legend, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've got to go. I follow your feeds, and I mean, you've gone everywhere. You got on some of the biggest stages with some of the biggest names in rap and hip hop.
That's, like I said, there's so many of those cool experiences, and I don't want to sound any sort of way, but it's hard to pinpoint one that was like, oh gosh, I guess, we did a huge one in Vegas, and there was like 100,000 people in the crowd. But one of the most fun ones for me was our buddy's show, Cali Roots.
Yeah,
I was out there. I was on stage with Ice Cube, and I had my little French bulldog with me, Charlie, right? Yeah. And that was such a fun experience being out there and just hearing him, rap out some of the songs I grew up on, and I'm sitting there on stage with him. Or Pitbull's another one, but I didn't get to smoke with Pitbull. He doesn't really do that.
Yeah. How about Mike Tyson? You smoke with Mike? Because I smoked with Mike in 2006 at the Doja Cup in LA. Mike came, and I was there, and he ended up smoking. I had a huge joint that was like that long.
Yeah.
he came over he had a plastic graphics bong. It's pretty wild. But I think they gave him at the door. But
that's another one where like I was there, but I wasn't like in the rotation for whatever reason. I kind of missed out on that one. One thing that was really cool, Collie Buds. Yeah. We filmed one of his music videos in my grow. And so that was a really cool experience. You don't have to be on stage with 150,000 people, just some where there's 15 of us and this music video is getting done on someone that you really respect musically.
That pops up now and again.
And now it's in your, it's in your garage grow. And that was really cool. That was really, really fun.
Yeah, he seems like a cool, down-to-earth guy.
He really is. Yeah, he really is.
And a lot of the reggae guys are.
Totally. And I was just going to get to that. Reggae is kind of unique where they're all kind of pretty cool. Most artists, I hate to say, are kind of dicks. Bash is super unique. He has this saying, don't be a dick, take the pic, right? Because anytime a fan asks him for a picture, he'll just stop everything and go take the pic. Most guys, they'll just walk right by, and so yeah. My dad was like, Rob brought this Bash Baby guy over, and I'm like, oh yeah, totally. yeah, that's right.
Yeah. My parents had a CBD shop and a CBD company. That's no longer.
Oh, they shut it down?
They shut it down. It's just, it's a tough market. And, I think you really got to love it to continue doing it. And
like I said, and I hope I'm wrong about the number. I feel like 90% of everybody's kind of gone away.
Well, that's just, unfortunately, that's how it goes. But the ones that are around, it's like, they're the survivors. They're the ones who just keep getting back up.
Yeah. Well, we're in the epicenter of cannabis, right? For the whole country,
We've been here for
yeah. Exactly. And so if anyone's gonna survive, it should be us because we're the ones that kind of fought the fight all the way through to even get to where we're at.
Well, and I think a lot of the ones that are still here, they wouldn't be doing anything else. It's like I love doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think I could do other stuff, but I choose to do this and I love it. And I think,
I don't know if you guys have eaten his food, but this guy can cook. This is like a world-class chef right here.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And I love cooking. I love cooking too, but it's different. Like I feel like cannabis is making a big difference. The stuff I can do in cannabis makes a big difference in the world. Whereas like cooking, I can make people happy and I can make differences in people's lives by cooking.
Regionally, yeah.
Whereas like working with genetics, the potential of drug discovery and some of the other stuff that is on the horizon. I feel like, I got a breeding book that came out. I feel like I can influence people to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Rather than just making people happy, which, that makes their worlds a better place. And that's great. But if I can do something for the masses, I think that's fucking amazing. And it's like putting products out that are good. I think that's another way of making the world a better place. So on some level, what we're doing is making the world a better place and being a positive impact on society. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that people, some of the older generation, they look down on cannabis, but if you're doing it right, you're making the world a better place with cannabis.
Yeah.
You're adding to the community rather than taking away from the community. And there's a lot of smart people in cannabis too.
Totally. And, I as you mentioned, I have a CBD company called Vida Drops. And, the first 2 years I had Vida Drops, I had met this oncologist and he didn't know much about CBD, but had some questions, and we were both tied to 420 evaluations, as it would be. He knew the old manager there, and he just had some questions. And so he's like, hey, ask them, can you find me someone that knows about CBD? I want to hear about this, right? And so anyway, him and I sit down, and a 45-minute conversation turns into a 5-hour conversation. Right? And I'm talking about CBD and what I knew of it, and how that kind of contrasting is his medical knowledge and background and fighting cancer and stuff. And so I don't know what I said, but I said something enough to convince him to like, okay, I'm going to look more into this. And what that led to is for the first 2 years of my brand being out there, I'd already been doing CBD stuff with Revivid. They gave me my start essentially. I was doing a lot of stuff for their brand, and that turned into me having my own brand, which was powered by Revivid and that whole farm in Colorado. Anyway, so I already knew a lot about CBD. And so anyway, I started working with him, and for 2 years, I'm working with him and his patients. And there's a cancer doctor, right? So I'm sitting down with families of people who are either in stage 1 or on the last legs of their life. And so whether it was the CBD or it was the other therapies, the other stuff that they were doing, I was taking part in these people's therapies. And I'm happy to say that only of the 2 years I was working with him, only 2 of the people actually passed away that he was working with. One of them, though, was so far progressed in his cancer that there was just no coming back. But we were at least able to give him some quality of life, some time to not be in pain at those last months. It's kind of hard to talk about because you get to know a family who their father or their daughter or their mother's dying. You become kind of close to that family, and you see that person in their last days, and so that was really difficult to experience, but like so valuable in terms of the guy in Ray in particular is the guy who I'm thinking about when I'm talking about this. Beautiful wife and beautiful daughter and a beautiful family. The guy was a triathlete. He was doing these SUP board races across Lake Tahoe, taking second place, competing against like 19 and 20-year-olds. The guy was an animal, right? And he lived his life perfectly, but ended up with this form of cancer that started down in his lower back and kind of spread upwards instead of downwards, unfortunately. And by the time he was from Southern California, and they sent him up here to Stanford Hospital. And essentially what the doctors told him was, hey, look, we've kind of done all we can do. I mean, we're going to keep doing these therapies on you, but maybe find some CBD. We hear some things about that. They'd given him like 3 weeks to live. Whether or not it was the CBD or they were just off on their clock, we kept him going for a handful of months. Like, so, but it gave him some quality of life. He was able to get some food down. He was able to, sleep through the night without, waking up 100 times in pain. It gave him some quality of life. That's a very extreme version, but all the way down to, to people who are just using it for basic pain, inflammation, anticonvulsion disorders. There's a plethora of things I've seen it work on myself with my own eyes. And that's why I keep the CBD thing going, even though it's not super profitable. It's not about the money with CBD. It's about giving people quality of life. And so that's why I still do that. I've dumped money into the company to make sure it keeps going because I want to keep making sure that people have access to it. So in terms of what you're talking about, like kind of changing the world for the better and giving people quality of life, making people happy, cannabis is that. It is that in a variety of ways. CBD is just one of those things. So I 1000% agree with you that you have a platform, and guys like us who have fought this out and really know what the plant is capable of doing. We have the opportunity to make the world a better place.
It's our obligation to make a difference. Because I feel like we're stewards of the plant, and also we have this one opportunity now. We have corporate America coming in to cannabis, wanting to sell the steak and lobster dream. And then there's the whole medicine side of it and everything in between.
Sure.
And I think it's our job to get the story out. And, obviously there's the extreme medical side for people like with cancer. And there's nothing wrong with the people that are using it for recreational. I think Dennis Perone said it's medical whether it is or not. Right. And there's absolute truth to that. I think a lot of people that use it recreationally, it benefits them medically.
Absolutely. Well, think about this. I mean, let's just say life's a bitch, right?
Yeah.
And so people suffer from anxiety, and they've got pain, and they've got stress. And they say the number one killer is heart disease, heart attacks, right? And so, what contributes to that? I mean, people drink alcohol, people use illicit drugs, people use pharmaceutical drugs. They do all these things to kind of offset the stresses they have in their life, but those are actually compounding the things that are killing them, right?
Absolutely.
Whereas cannabis is something that can alleviate anxiety and stress and pain and all these things, in a healthy way with very little side effects, maybe gaining a little weight from the munchies or, sleeping too long.
You're not killing people, you're killing cheeseburgers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For better or worse.
Better or worse, right.
We know that it doesn't cause lung cancer.
Right.
So
helps to fight those cancer cells. Right.
Yeah, it's real interesting. And I mean, we're just scratching the surface of it. I think there's so much potential with this plant, and we're going to find out a lot over the next 5 to 10 years, all the medical side of it. And once they start really being able to analyze it and study it properly, once it goes off of regulation, whether it's descheduled or rescheduled. I mean, I would love for it to be descheduled. I think that's the right decision.
Sure.
Just like we have alcohol and we have tobacco, those are descheduled.
Yep.
There's no reason to schedule it. Don't even schedule it like aspirin.
Well, it's a control thing. Yeah, right. It's control the dollars, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the reason we had to wait so long is because they recognize the value of it. And it poses a threat to pharma, poses a threat to timber, poses a threat to cotton, poses a threat to the kind of the major industries that built America. And the kind of the magnets of those industries are like, I'll put this $500 million aside just to lobby against this as long as possible. Well, the people are realizing that it's not the devil's lettuce. It doesn't make crazed Negroes rape white women, right? That was what they said back in the 20s.
Right.
We're at a time where information freely flows, and we know that these aren't facts anymore. Enough people have used cannabis to know that the worst thing that comes of it is a cheeseburger attack at 2 a.m. Right? There's nothing bad for you. So their fight is in vain at this point, because they know they either get on board or or
just
lose
a matter of time.
It's a matter of time.
Yep. So yeah, if you had one piece of advice for your younger self that was just starting off in the industry, what would that one piece be?
Oh, that's dark. No, that's dark. Trust nobody in this industry. God, the younger version of myself, I would probably tell him to stick with one thing and run with it. Because the industry was so wild, wild west that, I used to actually preach this. As a matter of fact, I would tell people like, oh, if you're in whatever the auto industry, you focus on your one craft and you perfect that craft. Don't be a jack of all trades, focus on one thing. But, as these years have come along, like there are so many different opportunities in cannabis, right? That I squirreled off on all of them. I want to try everything. You did a little bit.
You had a software company.
I had a software company.
You did a lot. I mean, you were definitely spread out. But I think part of the thing is with cannabis, when you're doing it at your house, in your garage, in your closet, whatever, all of a sudden, if you want to do it right, you have to be the construction guy. You have to be the electrician.
The HVAC
You have to be the HVAC guy.
I was on a roof yesterday.
You have to be, and then you want your genetics. There's a lot of guys, they were breeders, they were growers, they were all of the above.
Yeah.
Because you had to be extract artist on top of that, because I used to make bubble hash.
We blasted tubes. Yeah.
Blasting tubes, the old school with mica.
Yeah, that's right.
Like we had the tables that we were blasting tubes, and this is 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Wild times. But we had to do everything. And that's part of the beauty of the regulated market too, is like, you can really stay in your lane now. You can really be a specialist and you almost have to be. You have to, whatever you're good at, you want to be the best at. You want to be better than 1,000 other people.
Right.
And if you can do that, you're going to be successful. It used to be like 1 in 100, like the 99%, as long as you're better than them, you're usually okay. Now it's almost like you want to be better than 1,000 other people at that.
Totally. Yeah. Especially where we're at now. For me, like if I'd have stayed with the software, I mean, I've no offense to anyone listening that's part of one of these cannabis software companies, but I've played with all of them. They suck, dude. They're so overly complicated. There's these systems just built to run like chains of Safeways with 1 million products and not like a realistic dispensary shelf. And so we designed our system to be user friendly and be kind of all encompassing for the whole business. Yeah. And that, as a dispensary owner, it was easy for me to design this because I knew what my needs were. I knew what I had to get people in the door and out the door, and that whole process and everything. That's how we built the system. And we built it, I hate to say it, we built it for stoners to use, right? For our operators to be stoners, and like some of the other companies, I won't drop their names, they built it for, engineers to operate. And so had I stuck with that, we'd be like the standard in the whole country. Had I stuck with California finance and we hadn't had the issues that we had in the end of it all, we'd have been, we'd have been the number one in the whole world, right? There's just certain things that I did along the way that kind of shot me in different directions. And I really wish that I'd have maybe stayed focused on one thing at a time and saw it all the way through. That's what I would tell my younger self. Find that one thing and do it well. And so
that's a good one for sure.
Yeah. Kick myself a little bit, but I think we're back on track, and I think we're doing pretty good.
But I've never seen you just do something for a few months. It's always commitment. Oh, no. You've always had commitment to everything you've done. Whether it's growing cookies.
Yeah.
Like you grew a lot of cookies.
Sure
I think I still have some photos of your cookies from back in the day.
Oh, please
send those.
Photos
of my cookies.
Yeah. Please send those.
Yeah. The 3 where there was the 3 nugs side by side.
Yeah. I remember that some of my J1, which is another one I really love to grow, that somehow met you in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Right. it just ended up there, and you ended up with your hands on it, and you got to ended that in the cup out there. That was actually a cool thing.
So the J1, and that was fucking fire.
Yeah, what'd you call it? Jack's back.
Jack's back. Yeah,
called it. Yeah,
yeah. The J1 bubble gum. That shit was fire. So yeah, a lot of people. So the funny thing is like when you think of Jack Herrera today, most people think of Jack Herrera as this thing that's not that great, this thing that tastes okay. But the real Jack, if you get to experience the real Jack, it is amazing.
Amazing.
It's very complex. It's not just limonene and terpenoline. It's not just a very linear thing. It's a very, and it's strong. Yeah. It was strong flower.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just because you didn't try the real Jack doesn't mean the real Jack wasn't good.
Right.
And so many people and same thing with Blue Dream. I feel like a lot of people have tried some inferior Blue Dream, but the real Blue Dream, it tasted really good. It looked good, smelled good, everything.
I smoked it for years. It was the one strain that I didn't get immune to. Like it kept working.
Yeah.
Like J1, I loved it, but after about a month of smoking it, like it didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I get immune to it quick. A lot of strains I get immune to.
OG Kush, headband, whatever. We had the headband back in the day, and that shit was strong.
That was strong.
It was
chunky nugs.
Chunky nugs, and it would get you super ripped.
Totally. A lot of PM problems with that one, though.
Yeah, but it tasted so good. And it was one of those ones, it was gas down to the roach.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So yeah, there was the slew of different things that we grew over the years that were all really good. And we went through phases with stuff. I mean, cookies was just a phase of one of many.
Man, it all started for me with the Blue Dream. And when I got the cookies, I was like, oh man, now it's on. And
you went polar opposite though, as far as structure. Like, I feel
100%.
Like Skittles and cookies have the, I mean, Thin Mints has a good structure.
Yeah.
But but as far as like, I mean, I guess Skittles is a step down structure wise.
For as good as Skittles tastes and how blasted it gets you, it really is an ugly plant.
Yeah.
I
don't get too high. I feel like it has a ceiling, but I love the effect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely tastes absolutely amazing. But it is an ugly plant.
Yeah. I actually ran into Mendo Tone out at MJ Biz.
Nice.
We went to that after party. Was it Seedless? I can't remember whose after party it was. But yeah, I ran into him out there. We caught up for a while. I hadn't seen him in years. And he gave me a stick. He had a pre-roll there, and it was a Skittles pre-roll. And I was like, is this the original one? He's like, this is the one. And man, I lit that thing up, and that stole about a half of a day from me. I was so ripped.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good cut. It was a good one.
Yeah. I love the terps from it. I like terps. I chase flavor.
Yeah.
Constantly chasing different flavors. And I mean, so what are your thoughts of all these gelato crosses where everything has to be purple?
Oh man, like I said, I'm a Blue Dream guy. I hate it. I remember back in the day, there was a couple strains that were purple, and we thought that was a big deal. But
Granddaddy,
right? Yeah, lavender,
Granddaddy, purple Urkel.
There was one of them that was a sativa dominant too. I'm trying to remember which one that was. I think they called it Black Pearl.
There was Black Pearl. There was Black Cadillac or Purple Cadillac. Mendo Perps.
Yep.
Yeah, the Mendo Cough, I think.
We look at cannabis as, a flavor profile and an effect and what's the high like and what does it do? And the market just said purple candy. They didn't give a shit about anything else.
Right.
If it was purple and if it had a candy nose, they didn't care what the name was. And like as a purist, it's like offensive, right? It's like, I just showed you the most amazing bag of what's actually really good quality weed. And you took this 2 steps down thing because it was purple and candy. And that stuff doesn't get, I'm sorry.
Bottlenecked the industry into purple candy, right? So there's this big array of different things. And then everyone got fixated on this. And those became the qualifiers that checked the boxes for a lot of people, unfortunately. Sure. And all of it has its place. I like all of it.
Absolutely.
I like, if it tastes good,
regionally.
It tastes good. Yeah. I mean,
regionally,
there's so much
strain
good
has
stuff
its
out
place.
there. Yeah. I even like Tangy. I mean, I'm not the biggest, it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But I do like.
We worked Lemon Tree for a long time. I'd like.
Okay, so Lemon Tree, I feel like Lemon Tree is amazing because that's got gas and lemon, and that's got like gas, a nice. Dude, it's terps. It's heavy terps.
All terps. You taste it in your mouth long after the hit.
Yeah, we had Crockett on here talking about Tangy and the real Tangy man.
How's he doing? I haven't
He's
seen him
doing
in a
great.
while.
And Crockito, his son, he came on here. We were talking about strawberry banana and Tangy, and I got to smoke some of their strawberry banana. It was really good.
Nice. I just got some of that recently, actually. I have some, it's light depth, but I have some strawberry banana right now.
I think it's making a comeback. It's a good washer.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have a wash. It has to wash well too.
Totally. Yeah. I get that good yield, that good return back. Yeah. No doubt.
So where do you see the industry in 10 years? Like in all honesty,
my heart. Like I said, our whole thing right now is hoping that we can achieve as much shelf space and enough brand recognition that we're here in 10 years.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, I'd have said that we can do that by our own means. But now with where we're at, I'm fearful that it's going to be a overly commercialized, overly regulated national thing. And once everyone and their mother jumps in from a corporate standpoint, I think it's going to get ruined. Yeah. I'm hoping that how it ends up, there's room for like a kind of winery model, right? Where you have boutique stuff, you have boutique wineries, and you have your Charles Shaws, you have your $2 Chuck, and you've got your $60 bottle of broth or whatever you're into. I hope that it's like that. I don't know that it will be.
Yeah.
I think that everything that we've fought for all these years is going to go to the wayside, and the market is going to dictate, and the people with the money, you know, the big companies that come in and fucking destroy everybody or buy everybody are going to dictate how it moves, you know, similar to any other commodity that's out there. I don't know. I wish I could say I saw rainbows and butterflies, but I just don't.
You see bats.
You know. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. But the reality of the situation is, the second that Pfizer has anything to do with cannabis, or even Meta or Google or Ford Motor Company or any of these guys,
Pfizer's already got their hands.
100%. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're just it's going to get ruined, I think. I don't mean to be dismal, but 10 years, I think 5 years, we're still going to be, you know, it's still going to be in a good place. I think the longer that it goes.
Well, they'd have the vaccine and the cure for COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, disco had its time, but it'll never be disco again. Right?
No.
So 2012, 2018 were the best years in this industry. Anything past that?
I don't know. You know, me and you we've been talking about this for a long time. 2012, like that era, 2012 to 2014, amazing. But then I'm hearing stories from Steve D'Angelo. I'm hearing stories from Rick DeLisi, Uncle Rick.
Yep.
And man, I feel like the 60s that was the time, right? And that was the time. It was a different time.
We just weren't there.
You know, each one of those guys, Rick, he was smuggling, you know, he was smuggling 10 tons on boats and stuff like that, over 10 tons. And so, you know, there was that day and that era, and
I would have loved to be alive back then.
Yeah. And I mean, all these things led up to it being legal today. So a lot of people want to shun him, or these guys that did prison and like say, you know, these smugglers and these guys were bad for selling weed. We wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for them.
They paved the way.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely paved the
way.
Not
us, but the entire legal industry is thanks to these guys.
100%.
You know, that broke the law, that ended up doing time, and that ended up pushing back. I mean, you know, and some people call them outlaws. And in some ways, you know, if you look 100 years in the future, 100 years in the past, they'd say, no, man, it's not the people that were messing around with weed that were the problem. It was everybody else that was looking at it the wrong way.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, those guys are definitely the ones that paved the way. So 1996 could even happen. Yeah. You know, I knew Dennis. I can't say I know him. I met him a number of times. Yeah. And Dennis Perone is a champion. You know, God rest his soul. If it weren't for guys like him and guys like
there's so many.
There's so
many that are gone too. And it's like, that's why I love the podcast, to be able to capture these types of stories. There's so many special people, man. And there's so many stories that haven't been told, or that never will be told, because the people have passed on. And, you know, like Simon and Ariane and Franco from Strain Hunters, they're storytellers as well in a different way.
Well, they've seen the whole world.
Rest in peace, Frank. Oh yeah. I mean, but also telling the story of like all these different regions, and some people hate on them for it, but really, I mean, they're doing an amazing job at documenting places where most people wouldn't even go.
Yeah.
And then Franco, rest in peace. You know, Franco was amazing, and you know, he's lucky that he was able to tell his story through those channels. And you know, my breeding book's dedicated to Franco.
Yeah, he passed in Africa, right?
I don't believe he passed. Yeah, he did pass from
his trip to Africa.
Yeah, he had cerebral meningitis in 2017 and passed.
He put it all on the line for cannabis, because you go to some of these places in the world and we're used to like, it doesn't matter what kind of infection you get here, it's gone in 3 days, right? But there's things that exist in the rest of the world that, he put it all on the line, and he paid the price, and he did what he loved to the very last day.
Yeah, and he loved cannabis more than anybody I've ever met. I've met a lot of people that love cannabis.
Absolutely.
But
you're looking
the
at
conversations
one of them, right?
and the way his eyes would light up, unparalleled to anybody I've ever met. The term passion for the sacred plant, the hashtag that I used for since 2012, since hashtags even were created, is thanks to Franco. Him and I were sitting down and I said it, and he's like, that's it, and so yeah, rest in peace, Franco. It's like, without people, these pioneers, that have come before us, we wouldn't be here. And there's just so many of them and so many stories that haven't been told.
And that's kind of a problem, because those are the real pioneers. We call ourselves pioneers lightly, but that's because we operated in the space that they created, right?
Well, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, but we are in our own right pioneers of,
sure.
In a different way. But yeah, I mean, we're standing on the shoulders of the guys who said,
that really did it.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. When it was really illegal.
When it was really illegal, and they were looking at serious time, and and I mean, it's really sad that we ever got to this point. It never should have been illegal.
No.
Cannabis never should have been illegal. Yeah. Hemp, especially hemp. Yeah. That's such a joke that hemp was illegal.
Well, like I said, it's a big threat to cotton, paper, timber.
Of course. And I understand the reasons. If you have any sense in you and you think that hemp should be illegal, you don't have sense in you, because it doesn't make any sense. It's just, hemp is such a good product. It remediates the soil.
Yep.
It basically gives
Draws
back.
out
It's
the
way
crap.
better than trees for paper and for so many other things. We're putting it, it puts a lot of oxygen back in.
Yep. The cotton,
it just has
cotton
so
for
many
jeans
benefits.
is kind of like,
well, and compared to cotton, it's wild, because the hemp shirts last so much longer. Hemp fabrics last so much longer.
Just
than
as soft, and they last 3 times, 4 times as long. Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, I'm a big I love hemp. I love cannabis. We're blessed to be able to be in this industry. I've known you for a long time, and it's pretty wild that we're both still here, because so many of our friends that were in it are no longer in it.
Hung it up.
I mean, out of the 40 or 50 mutual friends, there's maybe a handful of us left.
Yeah. Which is sad, because it's been such a fun, wild ride.
We were always the hard-headed ones.
100%.
Yeah.
You got to like take me out to get me to quit. I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So if somebody's looking to get a hold of you, they want to find your brand, where's the best place to go online?
Currently it's Instagram, at the Real West Coast Canna, the Real West Coast Canna. We're creating a THCA line page on the Vida Drops USA website, VIDA USA.com. Full line of really high quality, organic, USDA certified CBD products. We're going to add our A line on there because, one, we want to get more eyeballs on CBD because of how valuable it is and how people need it in their lives. I really believe that, and also to host a home for the THCA line. But the Real West Coast Canna. Me personally, it's Rob Quintero 1. That's my Instagram handle, and we get back to you really quick, and we have good customer service, and we're starting to do a lot of different shows. We're getting back out there because the past couple of years have been rough, as you know. So yeah, we're hitting the ground running, and we're going hard. Absolutely. Speaking of champs, thank you for bringing that up. With the THCA line, we've got a lot of people that are getting involved with us. So Loud Pack J, Big Smoky Farms, we're doing a nice collab with him on some pre-rolls, some vape carts, some prepackaged flour. Also Nump, I think you know Nump, right? Yeah, so we're doing one of his lumpias with a THCA flower inside and some diamonds. And then, of course, Bash is in on this. Hopefully all of us will be out at Champs, making a lot of noise, creating some chaos, and hopefully coming out of that place with a lot of orders, because the Champs is going to be our launch pad for the THCA line.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Look forward to having you on again. Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to that, bro. Thanks so much, man.
Right on.